you talked about children and not having filters to really make sense of things. And that took my personal thought process to the whole concept of identity.
Oh, sure.
How so many of us struggle with a sense of identity when we don't have appropriate filters that help us assign a better meaning to circumstances. So, talk to me a little bit about the concept of identity and maybe even a fractured identity if we don't do that inner work.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we can think about, understanding kids, their brains, they're just soaking everything in, and they don't really have good filters. So what parents tell them about the world around them is very important because it goes into how they see the world and how they see themselves.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode on Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. I have the pleasure of introducing my very good friend, Holly Stokes, who is also known as the Brain Trainer. She's a master NLP trainer as well as a multi-time author. And with that, Holly, take it away. Let us know about your exciting new project and what is out in the world for the rest of us to benefit from.
Well, thank you, Blanca. So my book that I've been working on for a long time, many years now, just released. It's called Miracle Code. Sorry. It's finally in paperback. I launched it at one of the hypnotherapy conferences in Vegas. So it was great getting so much feedback from it. And it's my story of using mind-body connection to overcome autoimmune condition. So, and I kind of walk through, hopefully it gives people a way or a path that they can recognize their own path of self-healing. It's kind of structured in body, mind, and spirit. I may have mentioned this, like one thing that really brought me to the world of hypnotherapy was one of my psychology teachers. I remember they were showing a movie on the placebo effect. And as we're watching this movie, it's talking all about how just the belief that we're taking a pill can actually cause the body to alleviate symptoms, to feel better, to actually change what it's doing. And one of the last videos of this was a man undergoing brain surgery using no anesthesia, only hypnosis. And I was blown away. Like, how is it that the mind could actually shut down the pain response? That the guy could be he was actually awake and talking to these brain surgeons who were operating on his brain. And I'm like, what is that? My teacher is like, that's hypnosis. We don't really talk about it here. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I went out and found a local school, and it's been an amazing, dynamic, ongoing field to be in ever since. It's kind of been this amazing background. So from like knowing this, that our mind has these powerful effects on our body, and I think there's many ways that maybe we're not recognizing how we think, how we feel is actually creating imprints on our body. So basically the book is, I went through about 10 years when I was diagnosed in 2006 with this autoimmune condition, went through about 10 years of trying to find my own answers. Doctors, definitely Western medical helped me out, but along the way, I realized they didn't have a plan for me to get better. There was no talk about actually getting better, overcoming this. Their only solution was medications for the rest of my life, which one doctor said will probably give you cancer in 10 years, but hopefully we'll have better meds by then. And I want to say, like, Western medicine is really good at emergency care. It's really good at a lot of things. And we've really understood, like, because of science and research, we've really understood these finer and finer biochemical processes. But along the way, we're missing a bigger picture. Along the way of making the body into just a biological bag of tissue, that needs to be, biochemically adjusted, we've totally missed the whole mind, body, spirit system, which is what more Eastern cultures talk about and incorporate even into their understanding of how we operate. So kind of along the way, recognizing that I needed better answers, and I definitely did the practical things, changing diet, seeing what my body was reacting to. But why is the body reacting? Why does it have this habit or behavior? Why is my immune system, why was it attacking myself? And along the way, found by healing trauma, I could release layers of stress that were causing some overreaction of the immune system. And so it took, I say maybe I'm a slow study, but it took me a while to untangle all of these multiple layers. But it's kind of structured in that mind, body, spirit system approach. So there's the body. Okay, how are you taking care of your body? What are you eating? What supplements does it need? How are you creating kind of that foundation of health? And we know food sensitivities and food allergies are on the rise. These also play into how our bodies are operating. So if you're eating, I can totally go down this rabbit hole. I just want to mention it for a minute. But if you have a food sensitivity, or maybe 2 or 3 of them, and you try to figure it out, but some of these symptoms don't show up for like 72 hours to 2 weeks after you've eaten the food. So it becomes very nebulous. It becomes very, maybe nebulous isn't the right word, very confusing to kind of pinpoint and find which one or which ones you need to change up. Anyway, so that first part is body, then the second part is mind. And so as my background is hypnotherapy, how can we use our minds to create inner space of harmony? How can we clear out our stress patterns? How can we do our inner work that we create that inner clarity, that space where mind and body can start communicating and get into states of harmony? And then the spirit level is, how we operate. We're more than just our minds. We're more than just our bodies. We are aspirational. We are spiritual. We are innovators. We are visionaries. We see solutions that maybe are not available yet. So how do we tap into that expansive, dynamic part of ourselves and recognize perhaps, and I really a believer in recognizing everyone's path might be a little different through an illness, but intuition can be an amazing guide and create a lot of clarity. So that's kind of how I brought these elements together to hopefully help people recognize there are better answers out there. There is a bigger picture of how we are operating in mind, body, and spirit. And when we expand to these levels of health, these expansive levels of possibility, then there's a lot more leverage points that we can do along the way to actually get to healing and overcoming. And I believe that we can heal and overcome. Everyone has a timeline. It's not the same from one person to another. I recognize that. But as you do the inner work, that inner clarity, that inner harmony, that's what really allows your body to heal and rebalance itself. Hopefully that didn't sound like
you
a
were
rant.
on a roll. I didn't dare interrupt to ask any questions. However, I have a whole list of them.
Okay.
Holly, I see you as one of the pioneers in this realm, at least in my world of this realm of hypnotherapy. You were the first person I ever met that works in this space. And quite honestly, I didn't understand it when I first met you. As I got to know you better, you actually became my hypnotherapist. And I think it is such valuable work. And I will also add that as much as I didn't understand the work of hypnotherapy prior to working with you and immersing myself in the therapy of hypnotherapy. Loved ones also didn't understand why I was using hypnotherapy as a healing modality. That has since changed. So I think the world is catching on to the benefits of this lesser understood healing modality. So I just wanted to give a true felt plug for this modality. It truly has been life changing, life healing for me and what I was dealing with. And now I'm going to start with my list of questions. So,
Great.
I just love that you are drawing the connection between mind, body, and spirit. Yes, for years, Western medicine has separated these into completely different categories. And one of the things that you brought up is with the mindset, how, as shocking as it sounds about the gentleman on the operating table, having brain surgery without medications, I think the whole concept of being able to have your mind be that powerful to not need meds is kind of a wow moment.
Yeah.
And so, talk to me a little bit more, just even on that and mindset, because I think this goes beyond just hypnotherapy and more so into the world of personal development, personal growth, and how the two are intertwined. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah. And it's a great question. So I would say that what most people are probably more familiar with rather than hypnotherapy is meditation. Meditation has a lot of research to it. In fact, there's a great article. If you go to Psychology Today and look up scientific reasons to meditate, there's a great article that somebody put together, top 20 benefits of meditation proven by science. So there's been a lot more research about that. There are some different camps of meditation. Meditation, often we think of like quieting the mind. Our minds like to be busy, but as we quiet the mind, we can start to create inner clarity or get to these quieter spaces of being. So meditation, hypnosis are essentially the same thing. They actually operate they actually affect the brainwave patterns similarly. Meditation is quieting the mind. However, hypnosis says, oh, when the mind is quiet, let's put the mind to work. Let's give it things to do to heal mind, body, or inner stressors, some of that mental baggage that we might be carrying. So meditation is kind of the doorway. And then we can utilize meditation, but rather than just quieting and blanking the mind, we're actually, with hypnosis, taking it even further. And it's more like a doorway to higher states, levels of consciousness. We can tap into inspiration, wisdom, innovation. We can tap into multiple layers of human possibilities. What is possible? We don't really know, but our higher selves know. Our inner wisdom knows. And so we can, open this doorway to these expanded answers and the expanded ways of being. So that's meditation is kind of the gateway. Hypnosis just takes it way beyond. We can really tune in to these layers, mind, body, spirit, and recognize these leverage points. So you had another question in there that was, what is kind of that inner work? And I would say, as we go through life, we kind of go through the bumps of life and we have events. Life happens, but it's not just that we have the event, it's that our mind makes up meanings about the event. And there are some ways that this shows up, that are maybe not so useful, but over time, these can also become generalized into patterns that are not helpful. So for instance, one of my clients, I've seen actually this pattern quite a bit. A lady comes in, she wants to start dating, but she's having, trouble like feeling good about dating and finding the right guy. And we do a quick belief, like, what are your beliefs about men? And it's conscious, we know the right answers. At the conscious level, we're logical, rational, but it's our unconscious mind. It's the mind that runs automatically in the background that has some of that mental baggage, those problem spots that trip us up. So men are scary, men are liars, men are dishonest. Okay, so if the unconscious mind is saying all of this about men, no wonder why she's not being able to find the right guy, right? Or just enough to relax and enjoy getting to know people that could be a good fit. So that's an example. Then as we clean up what the unconscious mind is doing in the background, then we can open up to some new possibilities for ourselves. The inner work. How do we clean up some of this old history, these old ideas that kind of got stuck in our brains about how life works, or the stickiest ones are about who we are. So we go through kind of a negative event, and especially like you think about kids, their brains are just soaking everything in. Like a kid 5 years old, they don't have a good filter. They're just learning life, and their brains are kind of like sponges. So if mom comes home and yells, the 5-year-old brain doesn't say, oh, she must have had a bad day. The 5-year-old brain says, oh, it's me. I'm wrong. I'm bad. And then this becomes some of that mental baggage that isn't helpful. Some of those that create problems in other places in our life. So really kind of clearing up that inner work is also the nature of clearing up mind-body system to allow health and healing. Because whatever we're holding on to from the past traumas, past anxieties, negative thoughts about ourselves, negative thoughts about people who share this world with us, we are creating these inner blocks or these disallowances of expansive energy. Like you could look at like across multiple categories that things can be explained. Like if you talk to an acupuncturist, they'll talk about how your life force energy flows through your body. But if we have mental blocks, it's like we're shutting down some of that life force energy. So that's one way to explain it. And the more we create clarity within ourselves, that's where we create more wholeness, more inner peace, more inner harmony that then allows the body to heal, rebalance, and start reflecting into that peace, or reflecting that inner peace through our bodies.
There's so many of us that really what we're seeking is alignment, inner peace, clarity, sense of purpose and meaning. And when all of those other things, are so jumbled up that we can't make sense of them ourselves, especially when they're so unconscious, subconscious, I found it very beneficial just to do that inner work, to ask myself, what is it that I really want, and what would that give me? And that future visioning, that future casting, that is really the benefit of the outcome of doing this inner work. The work of mind, body, soul connection. They really are connected. And if you can't be clear about what it is that your soul really needs, your body, it can be a very stifling experience where you're stuck. And doing the work to get unstuck really is, the commitment someone should make to themselves, that inner healing, that self-improvement, that honoring yourself, your higher self, just so that you can be your better version, and in doing so you can help others. I mean, that's what I found doing all this work. And I love that you focused on the meaning we assign to things. And in my own growth process, I am learning to just reframe things and how I think about them and the stories I tell myself about those events. Because a lot of times the story and the meaning I originally give to an event does not serve me. It actually is very detrimental. It not only in the past has wrecked my health or brought conflict into relationships. So I just think this is something that completely helps all across the board. at so many different levels. So thank you. And that was
Yeah.
not a question, that was a statement, but I just found so much that you said so profound.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a great way to explain that. It's really that inner work and clearing out the blocks that are, and this is kind of one of my realizations is that those blocks that we carry that are kind of shutting down our life force energy are the thinking errors that we've taken on, whether we're thinking negatively about ourselves or negatively about people or the world around us. These are the things that are blocking that flow of energy. So, yeah.
You also said something that I wanted to circle back to. You talked about children and not having filters to really make sense of things. And that took my personal thought process to the whole concept of identity.
Oh, sure.
How so many of us struggle with a sense of identity when we don't have appropriate filters that help us assign a better meaning to circumstances. So, talk to me a little bit about the concept of identity and maybe even a fractured identity if we don't do that inner work.
Yeah, that's really good question. So we can think about, understanding kids, their brains, they're just soaking everything in and they don't really have good filters. So what parents tell them about the world around them is very important because it goes into how they see the world and how they see themselves. And if you think about the messages we got about who we are, kind of these little these little kids as we're soaking this up, most of our messages came from parents and kind of solidified our sense of identity by about the time we were 7. So we're not making really great sense. And kind of the cards you were dealt, maybe your parents had good messages for your identity, maybe they grew up with negative messages about their own identity, so they didn't know how to give you good ones. Or maybe they were just, these are also things that we can just take on, even though it wasn't intended. So there's kind of this accumulation of these negative self-talk is definitely a reflection of that. How we treat ourselves, especially when we make mistakes. My brain used to call me stupid. What did you do that for, you stupid? So those are definitely things that people see. But then as we're going through life, we then create ways because we feel kind of at odds with ourselves. Then we're on like these self-improvement, treadmills where we're trying to, oh, if I can just get better grades in school. So, I was like a 4.0 student. I would say I was kind of maybe high strung, had to do everything perfect, need to be perfect. And then if I wasn't, or if I made a mistake, I would really beat myself up. These are not healthy patterns. If anybody recognizes that, it makes life harder and you actually end up kind of missing the point, right? So then we find in our lives around us all these ways to kind of as a coping mechanism, ways to prove ourselves over these identities that we've taken on. And so this is where a lot of negative behaviors can come up. So, oh, if I need to be perfect, then I might be really high strung and maybe don't give myself much leeway, but maybe I'm not giving other people leeway for learning and growing either. So then it becomes ways that we kind of start getting more controlling because we have to control things, or creating less ease. We might have a lot of emotional conflicts in our relationships, or trying to control things. Whereas if we just relaxed and we're open and communicated with people, our connections would go much easier. So a lot of our identities by the time we're 7 then kind of set up some of these coping strategies that we're trying to be okay, but we don't realize that the recipe to being okay is making peace with ourselves so that we can create life from clarity rather than this need to rush or prove ourselves or to overperform or to not take care of ourselves, right?
So, what I'm seeing these days, Holly, is that many of us who were brought up a certain way, who were programmed to think certain things through our childhood, are going back and reparenting ourselves. And I think that's where the personal growth is so important, including healing modalities like what you're doing with hypnotherapy, because it really gets you to question the thoughts you have and the beliefs you have, and why do you have them, and who implanted them on you. And a lot of those were not even our own thoughts. They were the thoughts that were embedded with us as children. So I think now, with this whole, what I see as a revolution of the self-help and self-improvement world, I think a lot of us are getting to recreate our identities into ones that we can actually love and embrace, versus those that we may carry some shame or guilt about. So the way we compensate and overcompensate with that fragile identity is by not being so good to others either, because we're just mirroring how, our fragile self, our identity feels about us. So this is such crucial work, and I absolutely want the audience to know more about the Miracle Code. Where can they pick your book up?
Yeah, so there's the book to showcase it. It's on Amazon. There is a Kindle version and there's also the paperback. So you can just find it there, or even better, I give away the links to some of the videos, the placebo effect. There's 2 documentaries by the BBC, and it's all just talking about the research. I love it because it really highlights the power of our minds. We are amazing, expansive, powerful beings stuck in these little biological bodies. And I believe that the power of our mind, hypnotherapy, meditation, are these vastly untapped elements that can really help us heal ourselves, like clear out the old messages that aren't working for us, heal our mental baggage, but also give that inner environment where our bodies can also heal themselves too. So if you go to my website, thebraintrainerllc.com/book, sign in there. I'll send you those links to those documentaries, as well as I have 16 keys to self-healing and some other resources there, and the link to the book.
And I can provide that information in the description of this YouTube episode. So Holly, is there anything that I did not know to ask you that you would like to additionally share with the audience here today?
I would say, yes. So if you do have a chronic illness or a difficult diagnosis, allow yourself patience in the process. Everyone kind of think of it as mind, body, system, whatever our history is, our background, our identity, beliefs, kind of under the surface, the unconscious level is kind of like a tangled ball of yarns. In fact, this is true for pretty much anything that you're dealing with. Poor self-esteem, difficulty going for your dreams, or working through a chronic illness. There's kind of these tangled ball of yarns that represents these inner mental blocks that we've taken on, these ways of seeing ourselves or seeing the world that aren't in alignment with our clear self, our higher self. And this is what's creating the interference. So as you're going through the process, I would say commit to the process of your own healing, commit to doing that inner work, and have patience. It can be a process to kind of untangle these, and it does get better along the way. You do find relief, even if you're not, to the total end of healing, which of course is definitely what I wanted. And I could only, if I only were well, that my life would be better. But I really had to untangle how I was thinking, feeling about myself and the world around me to get to that place. So as you're doing the inner work, recognize the relief along the way, that it's worth it. You get to more clarity, more inner wisdom, more insight, and a greater ease with just being alive and enjoying life.
What great advice, Holly. Thank you for that. And thank you, audience, again for being here on another episode of Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth.